Hi, I'm MoOne from MoOne Drama, and this is MoOne Interviews. Really empowered creative professionals in the arts have made themselves successful following certain steps, which are outlined in the book Beyond the Craft: What You Need to Know to Make a Living Creatively, written by our guest today. The book Beyond the Craft has been highly recommended by the likes of Stephen Fry, who said that a concise and easy to read and fabulously serviceable guide to finding your way round the apparently complex, baffling and unwelcoming world of creative media. 60 Minutes correspondent Stephen Croft said that it's the cliff notes for people hoping to make it in the business of creative pursuits. A very down-to-earth individual who injects so much inspiration in aspiring creatives globally. Jim Jermanok has been consistently active in the entertainment business as a former ICM agent turned writer, director, producer, author, and speaker. He is also an expert on creative entrepreneurship. He has given workshops in over 15 countries on creative success based on his best-selling book, Making Your Projects Happen: Successful Film, TV Producing and Financing, and the Art and Business of Screenwriting. He has spoken for hundreds of filmmakers and writers groups, writers guilds, directors guilds, and universities throughout North America, Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Please welcome, all the way from New York, author of Beyond the Craft, Jim Jermanok. Hi, Jim. Hello.
How are you? Great to be here.
Great to see you again. It's been a while since we met back in Los Angeles. How have you been?
I'm doing great. I mean, given the situation, but I'm doing great. Spring is finally starting here, which is putting everybody in a wonderful mood, me included. But, you know, I've been kind of locked down. We had a very severe winter here in America, and it's finally thawing out.
Thankfully, spring has sprung. So tell us about your book, Beyond the Craft. You've taken different chapters of the book to deliver seminars. How did this book come about?
Well, I do a few different workshops around the world, and one of them is based on this book. And the book is based on the workshops. I've been doing workshops for about 20 years now. This book basically was created because so many people were asking me for advice, or parents of creative graduates, from undergraduates and graduates from creative degrees like film or theater. And I looked around and there was hundreds of books on screenwriting, thousands of books on acting, directing, you name it. Here we are in a world where literally millions of graduates every year in undergrad and graduate school in the creative arts, and there's no book. Okay, now what? I have my diploma, or I'm stuck in my career. There's no books whatsoever on the creative business or creative entrepreneurship. So I really looked. I wanted to refer these books to all the people who are asking me. And that was the impetus for me to actually write one. There was no such thing, nada, zero.
That's fantastic, because I come from a world where most of the people I know are creatives, and it is very difficult to sustain a living, like to make a living out of what you do, because you have to sell yourself. You have to be able to understand the world of freelancing or business. You have to manage your own accounting. You have to do your own marketing. And that's not taught on any of these courses. Whether you're a writer, whether you're a creative artist, actor, if you work in film or theater.
Or aspiring working successful creative professionals and students. And it's for actors, directors, writers, singers, photographers, designers, artists, musicians. I created my own strategy, philosophy, and even vocabulary to convey a almost revolutionary blueprint. The whole purpose of the book is how to get to the next level of your career, or first level of your career, without relying on others. You have to make things happen on your own. If others, like agents or managers or producers or gallery owners or investors, if they do something, great, it's a bonus. But don't rely on them for your future, for your dreams.
And you were an agent once upon a time, so you know the business inside out.
Well, a little bit, yeah.
Very modest.
What can you do for your career? It's basically, how can you agent yourself? Because unfortunately, the vast majority of agents and managers won't do it for you. They may compliment your efforts, but they won't do it for you. You have to essentially learn how to be your own agent. You have to learn how to make things happen on your own. And again, if other people help, that's wonderful, but you can't rely on that for achieving your dreams.
I absolutely agree.
Let's hear an actor. Instead of waiting for that one audition, make a project happen. Make something happen. Look for an obscure novel, or think about a story you know, or maybe there's somebody in your family. I always believe in using your life. You know, it may not have to be strictly autobiographical, but use some element of your life. Maybe you have a fascinating great uncle who did something amazing. Maybe you have a quirky cousin, whatever, some element of your life, and try to create a project out of that. I'm all about empowering actors, directors, writers to become producers as well. They don't have to be the only producers. If you look at IMDb, and I believe everybody should be an IMDb pro, but if you look at IMDb, you'll find sometimes these films have 15, 20 producers and executive producers and co-producers, whatever. So the point is, you're not going to be the only one, but I'd rather you have some influence and awareness of a project instead of giving it to somebody else, just dropping it off and going on to the next thing. Learn to produce, learn to make things happen. And if you're an actor, a writer, or a director, it's great to see your work instead of waiting for years and years for that big rainbow film to happen with stars. Just do a web series next week. Just do a web series. See your work on the screen. See your acting or directing on the screen. And that will really inform you how to improve.
Thank you. Once you've been casted as an actor, let's say, for an example, as an actor, the next step is to not become typecast into some sort of role that you're only known for. Whereas what you've always envisaged for yourself is to be in another type of role.
There is a tendency to pigeonhole you. On one hand, you may get work from it. In other words, you may get work as only a horror director or whatever. You may get work for it. It's a two-edged sword. On one hand, you may get work for it because at least they identify you. They know who you are. So that's a good thing, as opposed to being completely anonymous. On the other hand, as artists, you want to stretch and you want to try different things and you want to pivot and you want to be flexible. So you have to sometimes fight that. You have to fight that. And one way to do that, again, is to empower yourself and make things happen on your own. If you don't like just doing horror roles as an actress, then put yourself into another genre. But one of the most important key ingredients for success in the creative arts is being flexible and pivoting. And this is not true just in creative art. This is also true in startups. Very rarely do startups, even if they get some seed money, know exactly where they're going. Most of them either go out of business or pivot. They make changes based on what the market will bear. And it's the same thing as a creative individual. Maybe you're in the wrong genre. Maybe you're in the wrong medium. Maybe, God forbid, you're in the wrong profession. Maybe you are an actor who should be a director, or a novelist who should be a nonfiction author. Have the flexibility to pivot and go where the market is telling you. In other words, where is the work coming from?
So you follow where the work is coming from until you've gained enough power and strength to change the direction to what you want it to be. So you go with it.
For example, when I advise screenwriters, you shouldn't be writing the genre that you like the most. You should be writing the genre that you're the best at compared to other professional screenwriters. Everybody would love to write historical, Oscar-winning films, but very few people are actually good at writing those. So what are you best at compared to your peers?
And what if what you're good at is actually the most competitive on the market? Like low-budget horrors, there's a lot of low-budget horrors. And let's say you're a writer or director and you plan to do a low-budget horror because it's practical for your circumstances. But, you know, you can write that and you can write that very well. But really what you want to do is historical docudramas, but you can't because you don't have the budget, but you go for something that you can work with. What happens in a situation like that where you're bound by circumstances?
Rather work than not work. That's the bottom line. Rather make something happen than not make something happen. There's so many filmmakers that are so precious and they're waiting for the perfect circumstances and the perfect stars to come and be in their film and the perfect investment. Well, it doesn't really happen that way. You get in by hook or crook, you get in, got to get a credit. You get a credit no matter how you can. And whatever's presenting itself, you make happen. Whatever opportunities are presenting themselves, you take advantage of. So don't be precious. You know, if you achieve a level of success, then you have more control over what genre and medium and budget you can do. But when you're just starting out, your first or second project, you want to make anything happen you can. Get in the game. You get in the game by having a proper credit. You have to understand that you are the agent. You are the product. And you need to be your own agent until you have an agent. And even then, you never stop complimenting them. And I don't mean compliment, with flowery words, although that's always welcome. Because people have egos, they love compliment. No, I mean compliment them with an E, meaning work with them. Whether you have an agent or manager or don't, you are going to be agenting yourself, and you're going to be your own PR person.
Right.
So you have to make things easy. You have to make things user and reader friendly. So God is in the details. Allah is in the details. You need to go through you need to go through all your promotional materials and make sure they're up to par. They're up to snuff. If you're an actor, or actress, you better have a good reel, but not more than a 2 minute or 3 minutes. Same thing for stand-up, portfolio for artists. You want to have great promotional materials, and not only in writing, but also audiovisually. Very, very important. And the other thing is you want to leave them wanting more. They're not your mother. They're not your husband or wife. They don't have that much time to look at 18 different links. Send them 1 or 2, and that's it.
And I think the time is really relevant right now, where everybody around the world has been under the pressure of this COVID business, where we have either had by force of hand to pivot in our work, or we've been ceased at what we've been constantly doing and being unable to do it. Lots of work in the arts, that's happened too. Lots of artists have had to sit at home, they can't perform. I've noticed that people have done some pivoting already, but perhaps in an area that they're not quite sure how to move forward in. Like somebody maybe, I've been a writer, I can carry on writing, but I can't have any meetings. I'm going to try and illustrate my own books. And so they sit down, they try and illustrate. Or they are a creative performer who does acting or stand-up comedy or some sort of performance, but they can't work in front of a live audience. So they start opening a school online, do classes. Things like that. There's a lot of pivoting like that going on already. And then what do they do? What's the next step? Like, how do they turn what they've been doing around into something that they can push forward through difficult times like this?
Well, first of all, the main thing right now is survival. Everything else is almost meaningless in comparison. So it's about being nice to yourself. Exercising, eating healthily as possible, and getting enough sleep. Sleep is so underrated. Sleep. 7-8 hours a day. That's so important. And be able to turn off. Some people, as a function of anxiety or apprehension, are listening to too much TV, radio, text. Turn off technology. As an artist, turn off. The thing has an on and off switch. Turn off once in a while. And just take a hike in Mother Nature, or just turn off now and then and start reflecting on your work. There's some important things you can do during COVID. One is to really re-examine where you're at and where you want to be. Are you doing the right things? Are you making progress? Another is, this is whether it's during COVID or not COVID, making time in your schedule for artistic work and for networking or promoting your artistic work. You should actually time manage it, meaning you should schedule it like a doctor's appointment. Thursday at 11 for 2 hours, I'm just going to reach out to people on social media who can help me. Who am I? In my book, I call them primary contacts. So if you're an actor, your primary contacts are agents, managers, producers, directors, and casting directors. Those are your primary contacts. If you're a writer, it's the same thing, but instead of casting directors, it's producers or production executives who can hire you. People who basically, in a nutshell, no matter what creative profession you're in, It's people who can hire you, represent you, or invest in you. So if you're an artist, it'd be a collector. If you're a filmmaker, it'd be an investor. You need to cultivate as many of those people as possible. In the book, I call it contact accumulation. If you want a career as a filmmaker, with very few exceptions, you better know 300 or 400 people, professionals. But I'm just starting out. I only know 2 or 3. That's okay. Don't be depressed. But that's a goal. That's a goal. So you have to use Instagram. I'm doing some programs on Clubhouse, the new social media. Instagram, Clubhouse, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever. You have to use those and try to meet people who can represent you, hire you, or invest in you.
That's actually really, really good advice, to schedule that kind of getting in there, getting your foot in the door, make that an appointment. Another thing that I noticed is that people want to know how many followers you have or how much influence you have. Are you an influencer? And how much interaction do you get from ordinary members of the public who are looking for you? So how would you go about engaging if you, let's say you have nobody, you have no fans, and you're starting out, you're a fresh grad, and you just, okay, I'm beginning to market myself. Do I need to have followers? Do I need to engage with the public in any way?
Unless you want to be only an influencer, that's not the first goal. The goal is having some network for each social media. You have to spend time. It's time. Like, time is the fuel of relationships too. Any kind of relationship. Relationship with you and your social media following, or you and a new boyfriend or girlfriend. It's time. Time is the fuel of relationships. And time is also the fuel of this. You have to spend time at it. Are you using enough hashtags? Why would I want to be your follower? You're either creating great material for me to want to follow or read. You're either creating it or you're curating it. So either you're creating it out of you or you're finding material, interesting articles, films, and you're a curator, or both. So think about what value are you adding to potential followers. Then don't be too shy to reach out to people who could be your primary contacts, who could be helpful. And don't forget, the key tenet of any good networking is not just what can they do for you. We know what they can do for you. They're probably more powerful or more connected and can help your creative career. What can you do for them? Networking, bonding, is a two-way street. We know what they can do for you. They maybe give you an art show or finance your project or this or that. But what can you do for them? There may be something you can do for them. Can you help them personally? Maybe they're single. There's somebody you can introduce them to, or somebody, a peer they can meet business-wise, professional or personal, whatever. What can you do? Can you read scripts for them? Can you give them some travel advice? You know, what are the best restaurants in Penang? I don't know. What can you do for them?
Funny how you mentioned that.
I really want to visit Malaysia. I've been to Thailand, I've been to Indonesia, but I've never been to Malaysia. I really want to go there because I love the food. The cuisine is out of the world. We have a few Malaysian restaurants here in New York.
Last year, was it about 1 year ago, when we were talking about bringing you over here to Malaysia?
Yes.
To Malaysia, Singapore, perhaps even Indonesia and Thailand for a tour.
Let's throw in Vietnam while we're there. Why not? Vietnam.
Philippines, yes. Cambodia.
But yeah, I'd love to do a workshop tour, maybe in 2022, to those countries. And it would not be a tight schedule. Believe me, I want to spend a week or two in each of the countries. I don't want to be in, it's Tuesday, I must be Belgium. I don't want to do that. I want to spend time. Like, for example, if I go to Malaysia, there's a lot to see, not only KL, but I want to go to Penang and different, just to see the stunning beaches and wildlife you have. You have so many species that cannot be found anywhere else.
And we have your favorite roti canai.
Yes.
we know you like that.
I still don't know what's in the, I know there's chicken in there. I don't know what else is in there, but it's magical.
It is magical and very, very available and affordable. It's one of those basics that you find on every street corner in Malaysia. Yeah, we'd love to have you here. And what we'd love you to be talking about is more towards the filmmakers when you come here, because the filmmakers are the ones who I see as getting stuck when it comes to working towards an international market?
I'm happy to address it to focus on filmmakers. You know, the book I wrote, Beyond the Craft, What You Need to Know to Make a Living Creatively, is for all creative professions. There's also another topic I do for workshops called Making Your Projects Happen, Successful Film and TV Producing and Financing. I think this is a challenge that many countries have. I recently spoke to 600 filmmakers from all over Nigeria for a full day and we discussed this subject as well. How do you create projects that are appealing to the entire world? It takes a couple of things. I do another workshop called Writing for the World to make sure that your projects that you're writing are not too parochial, not too localized, that people in other continents can appreciate it as well. I mean, I can't summarize everything here, but there's a number of things you can do besides having an international social media presence to try to get the word out. I am in, I don't know, one of my favorite cities, Berlin or Paris, or how do I find it? First of all, how do I find your Malaysian film? That's the first thing. How do I watch it? The second thing is, what universal themes? Story selection. When you're a writer, story selection is so important. One of the biggest problems with screenwriters is I've read so many scripts where they were written very well, but the initial story was just not that interesting that I wanted to follow it for 90 minutes. You know what I mean? So story selection is so important. And are you creating a story that the world will enjoy? Or is it only for Southeast Asians? Or is it only for Malaysians? These are questions. Now, in terms of film, and even theater to some extent, and certainly TV, you know, the Netflix of the world are looking for projects that will travel to 200 countries. And this is great. I mean, I've seen a number of, for example, a number of great Indian TV shows. I thought they were really well done. And some great stuff from Israel and all over the place that I wouldn't have seen otherwise if it wasn't for Netflix trying to globalize things. What is the global appeal of your story? Universal theme that we can all connect with and empathize with.
That's right. Storytelling is so important when it connects to human archetypes throughout time and space. Those are the stories that we really resonate with. So those are like what we look for, whether they're in German or they're in Bulgarian, or it doesn't matter what language they're in. It doesn't matter where they're set, but if they are resonating with you in a very human way through understanding the characters being very archetypal characters that we can relate to, because those characters are everywhere. Whatever language they may speak, they are everywhere. Those are the stories that we like to pick up on. And sometimes a little bit of cultural reference is nice if it creates some artistic flair, some imagination for us, because then we can almost travel in our minds as well. You're working on a project. Tell us about one of the projects that you're working on right now.
I'm working on a documentary about Martin Landau. It's called An Actor's Actor, The Art and Life of Martin Landau. Martin Landau is an Oscar-winning actor. He was in Ed Wood. He was in Woody Allen's Crimes and Misdemeanors. He was in Francis Ford Coppola's Tucker. He was in the original Mission Impossible. His first film credit was North by Northwest. He was in over 200 films and TV shows. One of the greatest actors America's ever produced. And it's my great honor and privilege to be working on a documentary about him. That's one thing. I'm also executive producing a TV series called Catskill Falls, which is a 1-hour crime drama written by a 5-time Emmy Award winner, Eddie Feldman. I'm writing a new project. I'm constantly being asked to do rewrites for films or screenplays. Sometimes they're from people where English is a second language, or sometimes they want me to make it more appealing to America or Europe. I really enjoy rewrites because you get in and out relatively quickly. Sometimes I'll just make something funnier or more compelling, more meaningful. So I like rewrites. So I do a number of those jobs. And I'm looking forward to, again, organizing some workshops around the world when things open up.
That's right. It's not quite the same when you're not there in person and you have to do it via Zoom or something, because you can't feel your audience. And you're the sort of person that's full of energy and you deliver, connect with people. Like you said to me when we met in California, in LA, it's the schmoozing that gets people going. It's connecting with people.
You can always improve on your schmoozing abilities. Schmoozing is bonding, how you bond. So whether you're in a one-on-one meeting or whether you're in some elite party at a film festival, whatever the deal is, you know, you may have an opportunity to meet primary contacts who can hire you, represent you, or finance you. And you don't want to blow that chance. And when you're meeting somebody like that, you can always improve on your presentation, on your networking skills. So I actually dedicate a whole chapter in Beyond the Craft, What You Need to Know to Make a Living Creatively, on the art of schmoozing. And I define it and talk about different ways you can improve your schmoozing. And for example, one way is realizing it's a two-way street. We know that how they can help you. How can you help them?
So you got to think. You got to really think, okay, what can I do for them that they can't do for themselves?
There you go.
And put yourselves in their shoes.
That's right.
Have you got any faux pas, things that you should not do when you encounter these important people?
Sometimes they're not interested. They're not going to help you. They're too busy. They're already helping enough people. You know, you have to know when to turn off and stop stalking people, you know. Not all of them are going to help you. You know, you want to use your brain whenever you're meeting somebody like that. What do you have in common? Figure out commonalities. What do I have in common with the person I'm schmoozing or networking? Are we from the same state? Are we from the same region of the country? They could be both from Penang, whatever. That's enough. That's enough. Are you both from the same ethnic group originally? Or, you know, whether it's Indian or Chinese? Are you both from the same junior high school, college, graduate school, church, mosque, synagogue? Whatever it is, you may have something in common with them, and you want to focus on that. That is an entree. It may not seem like much to you, but when you're meeting a stranger, somebody new, it can be very meaningful. It's an entree, and that can help propel the conversation forward quickly.
In Asia, there's a lot of different protocols when it comes to etiquette that people don't quite know how to work around when the culture is very different.
Some countries are more formal than others. This advice is not American only. I've spoken in 15 countries. It's global advice. Obviously, each country is different. Now, how you do it, you have to find if somebody in common. You may have to be more subtle. But generally speaking, people in the entertainment and media and the arts business are more approachable than these other businesses. It's one of the biggest options to succeed in our entertainment or media or the arts. But a lot of people have depending on the country, certainly, and depending on the personality of the person, wherever they are, a lot of people have a very negative view of networking or schmoozing. And I think that should not prevent them from doing so. They need to understand, they think it's very superficial or chit-chat or small talk. No, networking or schmoozing is what you make it. I like making it authentic and down to earth and real. Either people are receptive to it or not. If they're people who they have an obligation. People who are powerful in the creative business, they have an obligation to talk to people they may not know. They really do, particularly if they're financed in some part by the state. They're subsidized by the state. They have an obligation. They can't just say, I don't want to talk to you, you're not big enough, whatever. They have to talk to you, and you got to make it happen. And you got to leave pride at the door. Pride and ego are killers. You may have to call these people 4 or 5 times. If you appeal to their ego and ask, listen, I just want to ask you some career advice. I know, you know, just 10, 15, I'll go wherever you want to meet or whenever you can talk. You'll be surprised what an enormous percentage, high percentage of people will agree to at least an informational interview. They remember how they succeeded. And it's very bad karma, if you will, to blow off people once you've reached them. You know, you got to get back.
Keep it fluid, keep it down to earth, make it mutual, make it connecting. That's
right.
How arts flow. That's how people connect. That's how people get to know each other, find their team, their peers, their crew.
You got to try.
You got to try. You got to take that step.
That's right.
So let's say you were coming over and we were doing a Southeast Asian tour with all those countries that you mentioned. What would be the ideal workshop for this region, for Southeast Asia?
Writing for the world, or, you know, making your projects global projects.
Yes.
You know, why should some countries like Britain or France Why should their work be global and other countries know? And what can we do to change that? So that would be certainly an issue that I would try to empower people about. And otherwise, I think just, making your projects happen. Successful film, TV, and producing and financing would apply in all these countries. The art and business of screenwriting certainly applies, or writing. The workshops that I have based on my book, Beyond the Craft, What You Need to Know to Make a Living Creative, they're about creative entrepreneurship. Creative entrepreneurship is always evolving. It's changing because the business and market is changing. And I think that will have a lot of relevance for people. My workshops are very international. They're very global. They're not American. I don't talk about things that only are relevant in America or Northeast America or New York. I talk about things that can be useful to my audience from all over the world.
It's really important. And because it's slightly different in every region, it's nice to know that there are some overarching rules or advice that you can follow that works for everyone.
That's right. But you got to try. Things won't happen unless you're on the playing field trying. If I maybe use a stupid sports analogy, you got to play. If you don't play, then you're out of the game. One thing that really inspires me is I have a lot of rich and famous friends, nothing against them, but I want to inspire the most talented people, whether they're connected or wealthy or not. I want to inspire the most interesting stories to come out on film and TV and theater. So I want to inspire talent. I want to inspire diversity. I want to inspire the best possible stories coming out. Because we're all storytellers. That's what we are.
And where can people find you? Where can people find your book, Beyond the Craft?
It's sold around the world. Amazon, The Book Patch, Ingram Spark, wherever people buy books. There's also an audio version. Coming out with a book called Dive In, Real Estate Investment Advice from a Pro. That's going to be available this week. So that's very exciting.
Congratulations, new book out.
Thank you.
Real estate.
It's the first time or second time real estate. It's a great, with the volatility of the stock market, it's a pretty solid. Yes, there's balloons that pop, but basically it's pretty secure investment. So I don't know anything about it. And an expert who has a Midas touch with real estate, he and I co-wrote this book. And, like a naive questioner, I asked him anything I could. I didn't know about anything. I asked him whatever I could. And it's a 300-page thorough book about real estate investment, management, anything you want to know. And that's coming out this week as well. I have a website, jimjermanok.com. I also have a web series I'm very proud of that can be seen anywhere called lifeadvice.tv, www.lifeadvice.tv. I went to nursing homes, senior citizen centers, assisted living centers, found the most dynamic seniors I could find, and asked them to give me advice, whether it's about relationships, parenting, love, wellness, longevity, God forbid, happiness. All them into 2 to 3 minute little sections, and it's called lifeadvice.tv. And my partner is a wonderful guy named Rosen Dikov from Bulgaria, believe it or not, a wonderful designer, a brilliant designer, one of the best in Europe. He does things that I can't do. In my workshops, I talk about partnerships, how to have effective partnerships with people. The stakes have to be as high for them as they are for you. So lifeadvice.tv is a wonderful web series I did, and I'm very proud of it. So that's one thing. And then I'm also on LinkedIn, Instagram, Clubhouse, Twitter.
Okay. So all the links will be provided below, running across under the screen. And
thank you.
We really look forward to welcoming you across the ocean.
I want to do a gastronomic tour of Malaysia. That's what,
What I want to do. If you do a gastronomic tour.
I want to try other regional food.
With the seminars, perhaps you could turn that into a web TV show. So we'd love you to come over. We'd love you to try, taste everything. And we want your feedback. And then we want to collect your advice, be able to use it, have some positive input and some inspiration from you as well.
Thanks so much for having me today.
Thank you. So everybody, that was the most warm-hearted piece of advice from the most down-to-earth, no bull guy, Jim Jermanok. Thank you.
Great to be here. Thanks so much for having me, MoOne.
Bye.
Remember to like,
Share and subscribe to MoOne Drama for the choicest, tastiest, most wholesome drama around.